not against rap. We're not against rappers. But we are against those thugs.
It's the thuggish ruggers ball. 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 You feeling the strength for the rum, step up, hit a funk, get a jump at the thug.
What's up, guys? Welcome to show number 83. As always, thank you so much for rocking me these first 82 shows. By now, you know where to find me. If you go to SoundCloud, Stitcher, as well as iTunes, search for Trill Withers, the show will come up. Do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe there so that the show will come to you every week. Got the email address, that's trillwitherspodcast@gmail.com. And the website is lookingupfromthefloor.wordpress.com. All right, for today's show, we have got Good Morning America influencer, meme connoisseur, my man Trill Ballins joins us. We talk about the NBA Finals. We go into Made in America, the O.J. Simpson documentary. We talk some Chappelle Show. We talk some Twitter brands. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, but I enjoyed it. Think you will too. So the next voices you will be hearing are myself and my man Trill Ballins.
Hey, what's going on?
Trill Ballins.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us, sir.
Yeah, no problem. I was on I did another podcast last night. It was like a Game of Thrones podcast, but I don't think we realized when we scheduled it that the finals were concluding, and so we had like 4 people call in. It was actually kind of entertaining because this one person called in, and she was just like an expert on all these like Game of Thrones lore details, and she was just dropping knowledge, and I learned a lot, but I was like trying to keep up with the game at the same time, and then check the Twitter feed for the crying Jordan memes.
Oh, man.
That I come across, which I didn't actually, aside from the Aisha Curry cutting the pie or cake with the crying Jordan face in it, I really didn't see any crying Jordan that stood out.
I'm trying. I don't think I did it. The best one I think that I saw was like them carrying the trophy case, and somebody just tweeted, "Look, they're carrying the crying Jordan into the stadium." That might be the best one I saw, better than any like actual crying Jordan.
Yeah. Well, I kind of feel like it's never going to go away. Like, you know, it's always going to be a thing.
Yeah.
But it really did, in my opinion, like the national championship game this year, just because Jordan was like in the building himself and so prominent on the sidelines. It kind of had a pinnacle there this year.
I was just say, like, yeah, we knew we were going to meet some diminishing return at some point, and like you said, it's never really going to go away. Like I've just learned that I don't think LeBron James knows about crying Jordan yet. Like he's tweeting about like the frog and the tea, so I'm led to wonder like how many memes is he behind?
He's probably still showing people hamster dance.
Like that, and like damn Daniel, like he'll get that sometime next year. I don't know when he's going to get Mr. Krabs, and it worries me.
that would I was like, first off, I'm really happy. Like I enjoy that hat because like more like if he brings back the slouch dad hat, like I'm completely on board with that because that's my style of hat. But like that combined with the Ultimate Warrior T-shirt that probably was like a triple XL but fit him like a small fit to me.
Like an undershirt.
Yeah, like, you know, I get why he did it, and it was like funny and all, but it was kind of crazy because, you know, a guy like LeBron usually comes out like wearing his own like Witness T-shirt or his own Nike stuff, and he just like kind of goes off the script. But I really enjoy it. It's good to have Happy LeBron back.
It is like Happy LeBron, Petty LeBron. Like the hat and the shirt is like I'm the best, but I'm still also very petty. Don't forget either of these things.
He's like truly the first like millennial superstar. Because he's sensitive, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think everybody is, but he's willing to show it, and he reacts to the kind of chatter that goes on, and if you go back to him talking about his motivation last year, I think it ended up just being like Pat Riley saying something about like you're making a mistake or this is the worst decision of your career, which kind of sucks, but it's Pat Riley, so
right.
I don't know what you expect. And he kind of used that as like motivation, and good for him. But he's not afraid to say things like tick him off and like be petty about it, which is kind of like the whole point of Twitter, honestly.
Yeah, like it's very refreshing, that and how like he's he's kind of unaware, but I say that as someone, like, we're on Twitter every day. LeBron James probably, I don't know when the last time he's tweeted. Like, he should be behind. He shouldn't be keeping up the way that we are. But, like, him just, like, when he joined Snapchat and just posted the picture of him grinning, or anytime he posted, like, a selfie after a loss, and it's just like, you're so unaware, LeBron. But, like you said, like, that's kind of what it's for. Like, we get to see that out of celebrities. We wouldn't normally get to see it.
I think the problem was that, you know, he went on that big, like, emo streak where he was, like, you know, posting the motivational selfies, or, you know, it was the one like him in his hotel room. I forget who he was wearing, but, like, he got ripped to shreds.
Yeah, like the Inspector Gadget jacket on.
Yeah, and he just got ripped to shreds, and, like, I mean, that's something a regular person would post. And I think that's
right.
why people get on. It's like, you're LeBron James, you know. I'm sure you got, like, you know, pictures of you and, like, you know, the president on your iPhone roll, and you're posting the selfie from the Ritz-Carlton in New York or whatever. And I mean, it kind of goes back to, like, you know, there's just so many, like, unrealistic expectations placed upon him, and I feel like at least maybe we're at a point where we can sit back and just enjoy what he is without, like, trying to fit him into this need to, you know, compare him to someone else. And I get why people do that. It's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the closest thing we've ever seen to anything as great as Jordan. Well, it depends on where you fall on which side of the Kobe debate, but I get why people do it, but at the same time, you know, he's himself. He's his own player. Like, the stuff he does is that block last night, you know, just his ability to go across the, you know, entire court in that short time span I watched that replay probably 10 times a day. I couldn't believe it still.
Yeah, it's like that sequence. Like, he made the block, which it's got to be one of the best blocks of all time. Like, that's Game 7 Finals, like an actual critical moment. And on the other end, if he completed the dunk on Draymond, I think that would have been the best sequence of all time.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that definitely, I mean, I don't know who tweeted about it, but that would be probably, you know, if he had like 5 plays on his career highlight reel, that would be number 1, just because of what it would mean in the moment. And no, I see, like, everyone's reacting. I don't mean everyone. Like, Skip Bayless is a character, plays a character.
Sure.
You know, people still argue with him. I get it. It's fun. But he came out, and, you know, his line today was that, you know, if LeBron James was great, he would have shot Kyrie's shot and made it, and, you know, that's the narrative. But he almost did. He almost made that dunk. Yeah. And, you know, had that gone in, that really would have been it. You know, he hit one of the free throws, and I think that was it. But I was pretty terrified, like, when he went down for a second, because I really thought he was really hurt. I mean,
yeah, I did too. And we never, like, you never see LeBron, like, roll around on the ground. He usually, like, pops back up.
Yeah, I mean, he usually takes the fall, whatever, pops back up, and, you know, he goes down the ground. And I was like, you know, this is, you know, am I like, I'm always, you know, I try to, like, not to be too much of a pessimist, and I didn't really have a dog in the fight, but I did want to see him win. But I'm like, this would be the most Cleveland thing ever, right? You know, 10 seconds
right.
You know, like, one of the best basketball players of all time, you know, goes down, can't come back into the game. You know, I don't know what the rule is. Someone else comes in, shoots the free throws, misses them both. You know, something like that. I'm like, at that point, I was like, I don't know. But then, you know, he got back up, and it felt good. You know, on the other hand, you know, if they would have won and he would have broke his wrist, it would have fit the narrative of, you know, he gave everything for the city, which I'm sure ESPN would just be loving that right now.
I was going to say, yeah, he might actually want to leak that. Like, even if it's not true, just leak that he broke a bone in his hand on that play. Like, just for the narrative, just to make yourself look better.
You know what he should do? He should go get, like, a fake X-ray or an X-ray of someone else's broken hand and then just post it to Instagram with, like, not my business hashtag.
Yeah, just a frog in a mug and just him in, like, a sling and doesn't say anything else about it.
Yeah, just him getting to the, I forget where some of the older memes that he could probably use, but no, I thought it was great last night. I was working from home today, and I was just, like, watching ESPN pretty much all day, and, you know, they were just, like, loving it. They had all their reporters from Ohio on, and just kept talking and showing, like, you know, video of them arriving after the airplane from Vegas, which I didn't know they went to Vegas until, like, that point when, you know, J.R. Smith came out without a shirt. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then I went on to, like, TMZ or whatever and saw, like, they all were wearing the same stuff they were wearing at XS in Vegas. And it's like nobody slept the entire night, which 100% stand behind, because if you win a championship, you're completely entitled to that.
Oh, absolutely.
But the footage was pretty funny, because I feel like they had all the servers there with the sparklers, and they walked them through, and nobody in the club really realized what was going on. And at some point, they kind of get onto it, and they put Cavaliers up on the board, and everything starts turning up. And next thing you know, like J.R. Smith's dumping champagne all over like one of the servers, and she's spraying him back. I'm just like, good for him, man, because I really feel his post game press conference was probably the coolest thing that came out of the night.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, because I was sitting here, and it's Father's Day, and it just was. I kind of he comes from like a different walk of life than a lot of folks. There's something you got to appreciate, but like what I related to it is he's 30, 31. And I don't know how old you are, but like I'm 31, so I'm at that place in my life where you kind of look back at your past mistakes, like where you are now, and like you kind of realize it, and you prioritize where your family's at, and like that's what I was getting from that too. And it just kind of it was a really good moment. It was a really honest moment. You don't see that a lot, especially when teams win.
Yeah.
Normally you get the canned. We gave it 110%.
Yeah. Both teams play hard.
Both teams play hard, and we're gonna go, have fun tonight. But then it's 6 a.m. back on the grind. It's like, well, that stuff's boring. To get this candid interview that I think everybody can really appreciate. And I thought that was really cool, especially a guy like J.R. Smith, who's, he's been a mainstay of the league, and a lot of different lights. Both as a good player.
I was gonna say, yeah, for good and bad.
Yeah, and, just kind of his incidents with the car accidents, but also being known for some of his hijinks in the DMs, and the pipe DM, which is legendary.
Like the high school quote, like J.R. Smith is one of my favorite players of all time. Like I was ecstatic to see him win, even before that speech, and even after the speech, and seeing like how he celebrated, like how he didn't have a shirt on for the entire parade. And I can't imagine he's going to have a shirt on all summer. And really, why should he?
They've all deserved it, but like him especially. And I just think he should just take the whole like Gronk approach and do what Gronk did, during that summer after the Patriots won.
Oh, absolutely.
Where he just went into that parade and he was wearing the Minions hat, and he just had the Minions hat, and he was dumping beer into his mouth. And they're just, in the duck boat, and then the next day he was like in Vegas at his like birthday party or something at the Hard Rock. Just, I can't imagine, like, it probably feels a lot like it feels like when you get off of work at Friday at 5 o'clock, but like a million times better.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to go back to work for a while. Like you did the thing you wanted to do, and you've achieved a career milestone that a lot of folks don't get to. And for guys who have been, like J.R. Smith has, been a punchline of sorts. I think he's respected as a player, but he's more known for, like the DM, like on Twitter. Everyone else mentions that. It's good to see him, succeed, and therefore, I want to see these guys go out and just have fun, because they're still young, 30. Go have the time of your life.
Oh, absolutely. Like I don't know if you saw the picture of Dellavedova was out there in like a Hawaiian undercover cop shirt, drinking like Corona out of a can.
It's crazy. If you like, if I showed that picture to my wife, she would be like, "Is that one of the brothers of the players?"
Right? Is that the trainers? He wrapped the ankles.
Yeah, it's just like he's like one of the Cavaliers, like ball boys that just basically got on the plane to Vegas with him or something like that. But he's living it up. You think about like where he was last year, right? And he kind of got thrust in the limelight, and it had maybe like a good game or two, but basically became synonymous with the fact the Cavs were missing Kyrie and Love. And then this year he kind of we didn't really see much of him, but he's there, and he's got to feel good because he's part of that whole Cleveland lore, and he'll be known as the guy who gave it 110%, and whatever like the PFT commenter type of
he's gritty, scrappy,
like,
hustler,
gritty, whatever. But it's funny because like he just had that Corona can, and it's like you're at this club and you guys are drinking Corona. It's like, come on.
Right, like 1, you're drinking Corona. 2, it's out of the can. Like 3, you're not paying. You know, Dan Gilbert probably spent $200,000 last night.
Oh, no doubt.
Just in the club, just in bottles. And Daly was like, "Nah, I'm good. I'll take a couple of Coronas in a can, please."
I mean, I think some of the other guys had Coronas too. It must have been some like LeBron engineered product placement. He's like, no, we gotta be singing with these Corona cans.
We need everybody to take a picture like holding the Corona logo.
Yeah, well, they just dump it out, pour Chandon into the Corona can, and sip it out of there or something like that.
I'm really hoping like a J.R. Smith Hennessy deal comes out of this. I feel like there's a market there to be explored.
I wish we had more video because I've been to the XS Club once and I saw David Guetta, like he has a residency there, and like we got a table at the very back of the club, and when we split it with like 10 guys for a bachelor party, and it was pretty expensive already. So they were up in like that middle DJ booth area. It's like pretty much like just the centerpiece of the club, and they always take whoever's paying the most money or whoever the most important people are and put them there because that's the Vegas thing. It's like what do we got in the. But beyond that video screen, there's like this entire beach club, pool club type area. So like I'm wondering like if they just took the party out to that pool party area like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. or something like that. But then they're all wearing the same clothes, so probably not. But like I just like it's like one of those things where it's like I wish I could have been there. Like I wish I could have been, Deladova is the ball boy. I wish I could have just been the ball boy.
Oh yeah, like everybody was getting it in last. Like I won a championship when I was like 11 years old, and it's still in probably the top 10 moments in my life. Like I cannot imagine how wild it would get, like if you won, a championship on the highest level, and especially like the way they did it for the city they did it for, against who they did it against. Like 200,000 might be light for what Gilbert spent.
Oh no, I mean, just thinking, you could easily get, I forget how much, like $10,000 bottle of champagne. Maybe that's too much, but yeah, I mean, you have. I don't know how many people are with it. You got to say like 50 people from the Cavaliers organization easily,
right?
Drinking, and then that spot itself, and then the paying for the service, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, like it definitely was a lot of money. But if you think about it, like Gilbert probably has enough of that.
Oh yeah, it was a drop in the like hike up some predatory loans or something tomorrow. I'll have that covered.
I would just sell these championship T-shirts and get the residual licensing fee from it.
Yeah, and that
like whatever. But it's going to be. I think it's going to be real interesting to see. Definitely what happens in this offseason going forward. I mean, with KD's impending decision, and then I don't know too much about the free agency, but LeBron can opt out right this year.
Yeah, LeBron. I mean, he pretty much is. Like, it's in his best interest. Even if he stays, it's still in his best interest to opt out because he would get more money.
Yeah, and you got to think in terms of that situation there. It couldn't have worked out. I guess it could have worked out better if he would have came in and won it last year. But he did what he was going to say. He did what he said he was going to do. I think personally, we talk about LeBron, kind of being a sensitive guy. I think he's a good. He seems like a good dude. I feel like he felt like he had a personal obligation to win a championship for Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't I know that's like the big tagline on ESPN, but I really do feel like he thought that way. Because it always seemed like these other NBA players, they have a lot of love for your city, but you don't see D Wade going back and playing for the Bulls or anything like that. But LeBron just wanted to go back, and he did what he was going to do. And now I kind of feel like his spirit has been unleashed to go do whatever he wants to do again.
That's what it'd be incredible to see him leave again. But Cleveland they couldn't be mad.
No, there's no way, because he's a legend there. He was already a legend there, but now he's up there with Jim Brown. And that's really saying something, but he's up there with Jim Brown in terms of what he means to Cleveland sports. And again, I'm not from Cleveland, so I'm not the expert in speaking about it, but it's just my perception. So LeBron could, it's gonna be one of those things where LeBron could go wherever he wants to go, and it's a completely different situation, but that's kind of how folks in Indianapolis were when Peyton Manning got released. And as a Colts fan, it just was kind of like, Peyton, this team sucks now, and if you want to win another Super Bowl, you're not going to do it in Indianapolis because we got to rebuild.
Yeah.
So it's like bittersweet, and you couldn't be mad at him because it wasn't a decision, unlike LeBron, but it's just one of those things where you got to once that player is kind of cemented there, you really got to let him do him and think about like what he did for that team and that city and that organization. So I kind of hope he goes to New York. I don't know if that would be the best move for him, but he would, if he could go to Cleveland and win a championship for Cleveland and then go to New York and win a championship for the Knicks, I mean that would put him in a different stratosphere, I think, in two different cities.
Yeah, see, I either want him to, like, if he's going to stay in Cleveland, keep building his legacy, I don't mind that. But just to see Dan Gilbert sweat, I would like him to sign like a 1-year deal. Just 1-year deals every year. That way, like, if Gilbert starts acting up in any way, LeBron can just point the finger and leave again, and it'd be Gilbert's fault. Either that, or I want to see him go back to Miami. Like, just be like, Miami was fun as hell. I'm going back, and I'm going to play at the last, 6, 8 year, however long he has left. Here's the ring that I promised you. I'm going back to Miami. Simple as that.
I would like to see him back in Miami because, especially the year or the 2 years where they won the championship, just how much fun it looked like he was having out there. And again, I don't know. Like my perception of LeBron in like the last year is like up until last night, he just looked miserable on that team. Mm-hmm. And in Miami, he looked like he was playing with his buddies and just having fun and going out there and. They just kind of, it kind of seemed like a little more loose about it. And again, I don't know the guy. That's just my perception. But I think it would be cool. The thing is like, is the Kermit sipping the tea hat directed at Pat Riley? How much built up pettiness does he have towards Riley? Or can, a new deal with more money easily rebuild bridges for him?
See, after he rebuilt it with Dan Gilbert, I wouldn't put anything out. Like, if he was able to, I think like in the letter or before the letter, he was like, we just sat down man to man, had a talk, and that was that. So if he can bury that hatchet, I would have figured, he could get past whatever it was with Riley.
Yeah. Well, you have to think though, if Riley even sniffs a chance that LeBron would come back, Riley would kind of do what Dan Gilbert did, and he would move everybody. Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry for saying that. I was wrong. You went back and won a championship. Now, please come back and help me be good at my job too.
Yeah. See, I think the interesting one for Miami is Durant.
Yeah.
Like, I think if Durant is looking to leave, which he'll probably stay next year because it's more money for him that way. But if he just wants to like come east. Come to a city like in a front office where they can build a good team around you. Miami seems to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree there. I mean, I hadn't really entertained the thought of Durant like too much on that, but I mean, especially with the way the East is, having LeBron and Durant on the same team would, you got to think Golden State's going to reload and be back year after year for I don't know, at least the next 2 to 3 years, maybe more. But yeah, I mean, that would make a lot of sense. I mean, I think you can trust that management more than you can trust a lot of other management teams, especially in the East. It seems to be, I don't know what Phil Jackson's doing in New York, and Chicago's seems to have been a mess, but Miami really just, both from a living standpoint and a basketball standpoint would be a good fit for a lot of folks. And of course, Bosch is still there, and I think he still has some juice left in the carton. So
that, or I think KD has to go all the way heel and sign with Golden State, which is what I think I would do if I were him. I would just go all the way heel. Like, I tried it in this farm town for 8-10 years, however long he's been there, and now I'm going to join the Bully, or I guess they're not the Bullies anymore, but still a 73-win team.
I think if he did that, I don't think it would ever cause as much like heartburn as the decision caused, because I think mostly that was because he had the TV special, which I think put a lot of people off. I don't know why, because it didn't really bother me at the time. I thought it was kind of cool, but
I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it, I thought it was cool for a player to kind of be able to do that on his own terms, and never have I seen anything like it. And, I think a lot of the words LeBron used in there, like, gave the critics a lot of, well, maybe it wasn't there. It's kind of at that, like, big introduction pep rally they had for the Heat that a lot of the jokes came out of that.
See, but even, like, as I think back on that, it's like you just put, like, at the time, LeBron James and Dwayne Wade were Hall of Famers. Chris Bosh was an all-star. If you get those three together, you should throw a party.
Right. I agree. I think we're like a lot of people, I guess what they didn't, I feel like people might understand LeBron a little more now, or maybe kind of sympathize with him a little more. I don't even know if that's the right word. I think at the time, they were like, well, LeBron's just chasing a championship, and, like, to some extent that was true, but, like, he wasn't getting the players around him in Cleveland.
Right.
And, he did what everyone else does, even in their own careers and their own jobs. If I'm not getting satisfaction out of my own job, if I'm not getting paid, if I'm not working with people I like, I'm going to look for a new job. And if there's a better job available, I'm going to take it.
Right. One with my friends. Like, it's a better company. It's with my friends. It's in a better city. Like, what? Nobody would turn that down.
But I think to some extent we kind of, we put athletes at this, this unrealistic expectation that
absolutely
they should play for more than what would just motivate them as a person, right?
Yeah.
Like LeBron sees it. I'm going to go win a championship. I'm going to get to live in Miami. I'm going to get to play with my friends. All this is better than my current situation. I'm going to go. So I think a lot of looking back on it, I feel like there's been a lot of like critical thought about the way, even since 2010, like our relationship with athletes and like what we expect out of them. I think Richard Sherman might have driven a lot of that, just kind of in the whole, like these are guys playing for themselves, like, and that's the way it should be. Like,
right.
They should be out to make money for themselves. Like, they should not be out to play for an owner, because the owner's not going to look out for them unless it's some, circumstance like what you see with like Tom Brady and Robert Kraft. But, the city's not going to look out for them. They got to do what's in their best interest. And I think people are a little more sympathetic to that now, and I don't know why, but I don't even know if that's accurate, but that's just kind of my perception. That might be just like my bubble on Twitter. I feel like people I follow are kind of in that way, but whatever happens is, if KD goes to Golden State, I do think that would be the second biggest heel turn than the decision was at the time, because that's just like full on, like, that's like NBA 2K when you like put yourself, your own creative player, on the best team and just
right.
like go on and like dominate.
I'd be here for it though. I'd be here for it.
Like I said, like if Katie, like these guys, they, think about like signing a 5 to 6 year contract. Like if anyone's employer came up to them and said, "Oh, you got to work here for 5 to 6 years." Even if you didn't pay millions of dollars, there's still other places they're going to pay you millions of dollars, but you're locking yourself down.
Right. And they can send you they can send you to another company. You don't have a say in it.
Yeah, you don't. So whenever a guy, or like a player goes into free agency, like I fully support them just doing whatever they want to do. And I think you kind of go back to like LeBron and like going to Cleveland. I personally, I don't know if that was really what he wanted to do. I think it worked out for him, but I think there were a lot of other factors that kind of led to it. But like with KD, he's not going to go back to Washington. I mean,
right.
He might, but I don't think the team's in place that's going to get him to like where he wants to be. And so if he makes a decision to say, I'm going to go to Golden State because that's my best chance of the championship, and when I go on Twitter, all people talk about are Michael Jordan's 6 rings and how that's the only stat that matters. Like,
right.
why wouldn't I like pursue championships?
Yeah, it's like you damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because David West just like opted out of like $10 million or whatever to take the minimum with San Antonio, and they still lost, and he still caught the joke. So it's like you can't win. You might as well get the money. That's how I feel about it.
Well, I mean, like, but that's the problem. Is like at the time, people will applaud the move for saying, oh, he's betting on himself, and this is how players should do it, and stuff like that. And then when they miss out on the money, then they just come back and say, oh, what a moron.
Right. Right.
So you can't win.
Yeah, having it both ways.
And I mean, I think, you know, there's such a long view, especially, you know, like maybe not if you're a guy like LeBron who signs a, you know, $1 billion deal with Nike, but if you're just a middling NBA player, like, you really have to maximize the amount of money you make at the current time.
Oh yeah.
Because there's no guarantee that, you know, you're going to be getting that again. And also, you know, sure, you can go into coaching after you retire, or you can go into something else, but, you know, you want to stretch that money out for the next 40, 50, 60 years of your life.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you do it that way, you know, you maybe, let's say you play for 7 years and you make as much as you can, like, it sounds a lot of money, like in the here and now, and it's a lot of money in the long view if managed correctly, but, I mean, I don't think a lot of people understand that, you know, players should be looking out for themselves in that regards, because they're people, and, you know, they want to live, and they want to live a comfortable life, and you see, you know, see the stories about how, you know, they blow through it, or, you know, certain people blow through it, but I think in that front, you know, I don't know if that's the exception, or if that's just like the, you know, most glamorous 30 for 30 type of story.
Right.
So, you know, for every I don't know which player gone broke, I'm drawing a blank, but for every one, you have, you know, 5 players who, you know, manage their money pretty responsibly and end up being pretty comfortable for the rest of their lives. So, yeah. I don't know.
All right, moving on to the next thing. O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson, did you watch the Made in America documentary?
I did. I watched I watched part 1 when it premiered on ABC, and then I got home and I binged the rest of it because I found the whole thing completely fascinating. I mean, it definitely is. You know, people were saying it's the best thing ESPN's done. I think it has to be up there. It was really well done. And, you know, kind of where I'm at, like I said, I'm washed and 30. So, like, this whole O.J. Simpson case was, like, a part of my youth. But it was, like, a part of my youth from a pop culture standpoint. So, like, when, you know, I would watch Leno in the summer and stay up, and it would be about the jokes and the dancing Itos. You know, Saturday Night Live, they showed some of the clips in the documentary. So you know, to me growing up, you know, it was kind of it was like a pop culture thing. And I don't think I ever really stepped back and looked at the whole picture, like the case and kind of, you know, what led up to it in parts 1 and 2, and really understanding that there were actual, you know, people killed here. There were victims. And I thought the really good thing about this documentary is one of the first things I've seen about the trial, or O.J. Simpson, that really had more of a focus on the victims and the, you know, the families and kind of the you know, fallout from that. And it kind of like made me think about, you know, all the jokes and the dancing Itos and how that everything just kind of got twisted into this perverse view of the case that really just, you know, made people forget that 2 people died.
Right.
So I mean, I thought the documentary did great in that respect, and you know, my favorite part, I think, was part 2, which dealt with a lot of the, you know, I guess the climate in LA.
That's exactly. Yeah, that was my favorite episode as well.
Yeah, but I mean, that was the most fascinating because, you know, that's something. You know, everyone has heard of Rodney King, but, you know, when you sit down and you watch the video and you go and you read about it online, it's just infuriating. And then the Latasha Harlan's case was something I had never heard about before, and that was just heartbreaking.
Yeah, see, that was one I knew of it. I had read about it. I did not know there was a video, and while watching it, I did not expect to see that video. And right. So I'm like, I'm like, oh my God, she just shot this girl in the back of the head. This 15-year-old girl over like some orange juice or something. And like you said, I think the way that the documentary, especially that part 2, played it, you know, I think they did it perfectly. They started with Eula Love back in the either 60s or 70s, and they kind of built up to it. Like part 2, I don't even know how much OJ was mentioned really. They kind of went up like 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all that, the racial climate in LA. And then it was like, oh yeah, OJ. And that's what led you into part 3. And what I've loved about the whole documentary is Like each part is, you know, a different focus, but they're giving you something you've heard 100 times. And like you said, I'm still learning new stuff. It's still stuff, cases I'd never heard of, things we didn't see before, things I had never seen before. And like you said, really kind of talking about the victims, because like behind all the jokes about, you know, them getting killed and OJ getting off or whatever, you know, they show those autopsy pictures and you're like, damn, like this was horrific. 2 people's lives were lost in horrific fashion. And that kind of, I won't say snapped it back to reality for me, but just like you said, you really remember that 2 people lost their life like this.
Yeah, I mean, going into, I think really so, you know, part 2 is my favorite, but when they got to the part where, you know, the verdict was read, that became really the most surreal part of the documentary for me. And because that home video they had that, you know, was when OJ, you know, returned home and his family was there, and I think, you know, Robert Kardashian was there. It was so surreal because you know, this is home video from 1995 or 96. I think it was 96. You know, before people really, you know, no one had cell phones. I mean, if you did, they were big bricks. They had camcorders, but, you know, this video was preserved and kept, and, you know, OJ was just kind of standing there, and in some views, he just looked catatonic. And it's just, you just think about, like, you know, how much that was behind the scenes that you didn't see, and the video just kind of served to provide this view that, you know, even after, you know, all the evidence was presented and the trial kind of went through, there are so many people that were still attached to OJ, and still supporting OJ, and, you know, still believe in OJ. And I think, you know, I look at the documentary, you know, there's so many players that just seem so fascinating to me that I had never really even known. And, like, you know, for example, Mike Gilbert, who was his agent, you know, had this super negative picture of OJ, but he stood by OJ up until, I don't know, until, was it basically until he went to jail the second time?
I was going to say, that's what it sounds like from what, you know, he told us. It sounds like he was up with him up until the kidnapping, robbery stuff in Vegas.
So, you know, it kind of, what really stuck out to me was, you know, they had like Wendy Williams in, you know, the studio, and OJ was, you know, started the interview off, and everyone's really skeptical, but then it goes into, like, Wendy Williams talking to him and kind of developed this rapport, and, you know, maybe it was flirtatious, but, like, I really did think it showed that OJ, you know, even with his agent, and either with, like, people beyond women, really had that, you know, charismatic effect that maybe, you know, is associated with sociopaths. And, you know, he was really able to charm the pants off of everyone he met. And, you know, you had a guy who basically had gone through that whole murder trial, and, you know, Wendy Williams was apprehensive at first, and then she wasn't. And then, you know, now it looked like she was interested in what he had to say, because he was just OJ.
Yeah.
And that was, like, you know, that was just surreal to me, because, you know, I just approached it to this one lens that, you know, I had compressed time and thought, you know, OJ got off, and then right after he went to jail. But there was this expanse of time between 1996 and 2009 that, you know, he was off doing whatever he was doing.
He was living it up in Miami, like from the like the prank show. He was like in the club. I'm like, damn, OJ.
When they dove into that, I mean, that was fascinating. I feel like that could warrant its own, you know, a whole other part.
Yeah, like I didn't know any of that. Like you said, you don't really think about what he was doing in between those times. But yeah, it was 12, 13 years. Something happened. You know, he wasn't just twiddling his thumbs. But I really had no idea that he like went back to like the black church for acceptance. I didn't know that he had moved to Miami. I didn't know he was wilding like that. It was just a lot.
I mean, some of the home videos, and then the like the excerpts from like the TV shows he was doing, like the Juiced with OJ. You know, just standing on the corner,
trying to sell oranges.
Oh man, I mean, like, I don't want to say. I mean, it didn't make me feel bad for him, but it's almost like, I mean, kind of to go along with Mike Gilbert, like, it made me feel bad for his kids. I mean, yeah. And I thought that Mike Gilbert was one of the scuzziest guys in the whole, you know, documentary, just because he, you know, basically stuck by with OJ, and then when OJ came after his memorabilia, he turned on him. But I don't know the whole story there. I think the most fascinating person was Carl Douglas.
I loved Carl Douglas. Like, I'm ready for a Carl Douglas documentary, reality show, podcast, whatever Carl Douglas is ready to give us. I'm ready for.
Well, he had, because I tweeted out the other day that, I think, like, I always like approaching, each of the talking heads in here is like, who's credible and who's not. And Carl Douglas, he spoke, he was very, he laid out the intent of what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And he kind of made it seem like, we were doing this, and if the prosecution wanted to stop us, they could. And he was just kind of laying out, like, what they did.
Right. And
if you kind of flip it to, like, F. Lee Bailey, like, played it off as in, like, the justice was served and the right thing was done. And, whatever side you fall on, like, Carl Douglas, it was, like, to me, it was a very matter of fact in terms of, we're doing this because this was going to help our client, win the case.
Yeah. Okay, so if you would say Carl Douglas is the winner of the die, and it's one of the questions we got asked, who would you say is the loser of the die, or would you say that his agent is?
I don't know. I don't know if I'd say his agent was. I actually I felt really bad about Chris Darden, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's the loser. I mean, it's really odd to contrast this with the FX show, the drama show, mm-hmm. The People versus O.J. Simpson, because Marcia Clark and Chris Darden were portrayed in much more sympathetic light than in the documentary. And mm-hmm. It's a drama, and kind of that was the tilt of the show. But I feel like the documentary is really hard on Chris Darden. We were pretty much just based around the whole decision to have OJ try on the glove. But you wonder. It's just like I don't know. Was it balanced? I mean, because I always felt like Chris Darden presented himself very capable. And anytime I watch him, it seems again like it just came back to that glove. And he also didn't contribute to this, which I he just wash his hands of it and say, I'm not going to do this, and then the documentary makers say, well, if you're not going to get your word in, we're just going to run with it. I mean, I doubt that happened, but it was just very interesting that he in a series that kind of presented both sides of most major players involved in the case, it didn't really seem like he got a redemption angle mm-hmm. as much as some other people did.
One thing that was so strange to me is how, like, as they were doing everything, anybody they talked to, like, not even with the prosecution, but like the cops who were like on the side of prosecuting him, but not necessarily with the prosecution team. And it was like everybody knew all the answers. It was like the cop was like, of course you don't do this. I'm like, then how did you all fuck the investigation up this bad? How did you all have all the answers, but like you pulled a blanket from inside to throw over the bodies and you're picking up evidence with no gloves? Like, you've got all the answers now, but when it was actually going on, how did you all mess this up this bad?
Right. I mean, that sort of stuff, I couldn't believe. And then also, of course, Mark Furman comes off as a complete sleazeball.
He's a piece of shit.
I mean, and that's the kind of stuff where, you kind of wonder, like, why, like that. Along with the glove is like, this just wasn't vetted. It seemed like, or it just wasn't a, complete, decision or a critically thought out decision to go with it. But like the thing that's like really weird for me is, I feel like we've reached a point in like 2016 where like DNA evidence is so conclusive in terms of like influencing the mind of a jury. And it was the whole like DNA movement, and just like such the start of it, or the front end of it, that it just wasn't a convincing argument at the time. And again, that's not enough to fully convict someone, obviously. But it just that's the thing that always sticks out to me is like you had the blood inside the Bronco, of you, Ron Goldman, and Nicole, and. It seemed like that would be enough to, pin someone down. I think that was the argument when the initial, I I guess, questioning of OJ was going on by the detectives, where, Marcia Clark was saying, why didn't you ask him this and why didn't you ask him that?
Right.
I think that was kind of the major fault there. But yeah, I mean, I think you have a really good point. There's just so many fuck ups along the way that, like, that's why I like Carl Douglas, because he was just kind of laying it out and saying, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. And you realize it, and it's just, it's kind of unbelievable, because you don't think in like 2016 that, I guess with, all the social media and pictures and videotaping, that like anyone would even risk touching evidence with gloves and being caught, or being caught on camera, or giving false statements, because you could easily Google what that person said and pull it up in public record in a second.
Like that, and the another like overwhelming thing I kept thinking about during the documentary, like every time they talked to either of the jurors, I think they talked to 2 of the jurors, and it's just like hearing them talk, and I'm like, Jesus, like I hope I'm not ever in a position where like a regular human being would have a decision over my life. Like on every day on Twitter, we see how stupid people are, and it's like one of these days, one of these people are going to be in the jury, and they're going to decide whether you get off scot-free or do 146 years in prison, and that's terrifying to me.
I mean, you got people out here on Twitter that want to celebrate the death of a kid by alligator.
Right, and so, these are the people that are going to be on your jury.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, like that's terrifying, and then also like I think the civil aspect of it, from the standpoint of, I guess, the Goldmans, was terrifying too, because they won, but OJ just didn't really have a mechanism to reliably pay them back.
Right.
So you think about that, like the pensions, it couldn't be used for repayment, and then OJ was also, I don't know, like filtering or laundering or whatever the term is. He wasn't accurately reporting his income as to avoid it. So that whole part was really fascinating, because it was a very large number, like 38 million, but it ultimately, like you said, it was just a piece of paper. But you kind of think about, like, like you got people who would not make an intelligent decision about are you going to spend the next 30 years of life in prison or not? But you also have a jury case on the civil sides that decides on the preponderance of the evidence whether or not you're going to be in debt your whole life. It's like right. So even if like, let's say you get out, like if they decide the civil thing, like, well, now I got paid $15 million,
right, for the rest of your life.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just that you think about it, like, it's like so much of it's based off of like people's perceptions and their own their own preconceived notions of wrong and right. And I think in a lot of sense, like that part 2 really did a good job explaining the climate of the times, and why it led to the way it led. And I again, like, justice for one person isn't necessarily justice for another person. Right or wrong, good or bad, it just is. But I think that, like, the documentary did a good job, like, making people think about that. And that's always obviously what you want out of these things, to learn something new or to approach something from a different angle, and it certainly was effective from that standpoint. Yeah,
definitely. And again, with a case that's been done so much, like I feel like everybody knows at least something about OJ. And then again, you had the FX series earlier this year. You had this, and I think it's Martin Sheen is doing some type of OJ Simpson documentary for later in the year. And so it's like people keep doing this. I don't know how much, more mileage you're going to get out of it, especially after this ESPN one. Like, I don't know what else you could uncover that wasn't uncovered. But, but with something that's been going on for 20 years, people are still talking about it, still making jokes about it, and still doing, like, brand new documentaries about it. And it's interesting. It's just interesting.
I think the most interesting thing to me is, like, OJ's going to get out in 2017. So, he's coming back, and, like, in what capacity, like, we don't know, but, what's OJ going to do with his life, and then you got, like, just the weirdest thing is, like, the Kardashian whole side of that relationship. You had the news this week that, OJ was going to agree to a paternity test with Khloe, and, it's the timing's so odd for this, and I know my tinfoil hat is that it's just a big publicity stunt, one of Kris Jenner's schemes. But you got all this stuff coming out this year, and then OJ's going to get out, and you got to think that's going to be, the interest in that's going to be reignited, especially after all these, shows and documentaries come out. Like, what's he going to do? Where's he going to go? And you got Ron Goldman saying he's going to follow him the rest of his life. Like, you got to wonder if it's not going to end.
No, I get the same exact thing. I was like, again, I'm a tinfoil hat guy. It's like, why would they do all this if he's going to get out next year? Like, this, it can't be an accident. It can't be. Like, the Kardashians could have been used his name for, some kind of press. They could do it like every year, and people eat it up every year because we see how interested people still are in O.J. Simpson. But when he gets, I think we should jump him. Honestly, I think like we should all just band together and try to jump O.J. Simpson. Like, he's not a good person. I think we should jump him.
Well, the funniest thing to me is O.J. Simpson agreeing to a paternity test means that Khloe reached out to him. Khloe probably talks to Kris, and Kris probably, assuming it's all real, Kris has had sex with O.J., right? So at least we know at the bare minimum O.J. has smashed, right?
Yes.
So that's the most fascinating part of all, because they've always maintained, and I looked this up the other night, they've always maintained that they had a friendly relationship, but Kris would have had, I think, to cheat on, actually I don't know, but I think cheat on, Robert or Bob Kardashian or whatever.
I think, yeah, because, that was Khloe's 30, so that was mid-80s? They had to have been together then.
Yeah.
And she's like the youngest, or one of the youngest.
Yeah, I think so. I think she's either the youngest or older than Ken. I can't remember, but yeah, I think that either was at the tail end. So you kind of think that like all this is just kind of Kris, planning this very special episode of the Kardashians after all this OJ interest has been drummed up by all this documentary footage. And like, I got to be honest, like if they're going to do the reveal, like that's going to be the first time I'm going to watch the Kardashians.
I was going to say, I'd be in for it. Like I would.
And not only would that be good TV, that'd be good Twitter.
That'd be excellent Twitter.
Crying Jordan on Khloe when she finds out the results.
It's just Kris, Mr. Krabs. She's got the fuzzy background around her. So what do you think would make for like the biggest Twitter day? Like just it doesn't have to be OJ, it doesn't have to be sports. Like just what happening?
Oh man, I really, like this is kind of morbid, but I really.
Oh God, like here it comes.
I'm not going to call anyone out, but like I really feel like the most activity on Twitter is when like a major celebrity dies.
Yeah.
So like. I hate when it happens, especially when it's, obviously when it's people that you like, and like we've been going through it a lot in 2016.
Yeah.
It always feels like, that sometimes it's like the best time to be on Twitter because everyone's getting along and kind of like mourning together, but then eventually someone like comes out and says like, David Bowie is problematic, and then everyone starts fighting again.
Right. Y'all wasn't listening to Prince. Y'all didn't care about Prince 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. So like, I kind of feel like before this year, I would have said, it would be like the death of like a major, pop culture figure. But like we've had that, and it, while they were sad days on Twitter, it wasn't like it was when like Michael Jackson died.
Yeah.
I remember that because I was like kind of on Twitter, kind of off of it, and Twitter wasn't as big then. But like that, all that news was like breaking off of Twitter, right? And that was kind of like at the infancy of. Like TMZ had been around, but like this was when they just started getting into like being the one breaking source for these sort of things. Yeah. So that like pretty much. I don't remember if like it took down the servers or whatever at the time, but that was a pretty big day. I would have to say though that the biggest day to be on Twitter. Like yesterday, like might have come close. I would say anytime you have like a Super Bowl or a Game 7. And then you combine it with like a major television show event, like you got multiple things working at once. But now it just almost seems like every day is blended into each other, which
for better or worse.
Yeah, it's like especially last week with what like went on with that woman in the alligator tweet. It started off and everyone was ridiculing her, and then they drove her off Twitter, and then everyone just kind of I guess they said like they told their employer on her, which is like not cool and all that. And they just say you take something where it's kind of like, okay, this is ridiculous, but then you take it in the opposite direction where it just doesn't seem like it's fun anymore. So I don't know what would be big. I mean, I like the LeBron thing because it seems like it's something that like everyone can really get around, and mostly most folks were happy for him, and Golden State fans probably weren't happy for him, but they were happy a few years ago when they were Heat fans. So.
Right. I would say, like, last week, just in general, was just a horrible week, like, in general and on Twitter. It was like the alligator shit, the Orlando shootings, like the Pulse Club shooting, and the singer from The Voice getting killed. And it was like you said, it was just, like, you start to, like, not there's going to be fun in those situations, but it's like we're taking shitty situations and taking them, like, even further into the abyss. And it's like for what? What's the point here? What are we getting out of this?
Yeah, I mean, there's like with something like the Orlando shootings. I feel like things have almost gotten like more toxic, and I don't know if that's because of like what's going on with the political environment. Mm-hmm. But there's just a lot of, and I guess like when I first started out like tweeting, I'd find ignorant tweets or whatever, and I'd retweet them and kind of say, haha, look at this idiot. Mm-hmm. And then you just realize like all you're doing is looking for that shit yourself, and you're just making yourself sad that someone's saying it, and then you're just giving that person a platform and broadcasting them, and then you're giving other people the ability to hop in their mentions, and when people are like accosted like that, they're just going to double down.
Yeah.
I like most people are not going to have their minds changed on Twitter, much less their minds changed ever in real life. Like, I think intelligent people are willing to have the debate and kind of think about stuff and move. But, like last week was just especially bad because you just had this it was like really like a buildup of the like Harambe event. And you kind of look back and it's like, everything was going so well that we were arguing over like that. And like, yeah, that was unfortunate, but like, it's almost like one of these things where you have to take a binary stance. It's like you can't really read between the lines or see the shades of gray, and like these situations are like not binary. Like there's no winner there, right? Like the kid had to live, and I'm sorry the gorilla had to die. I'm not happy about the gorilla dying, and one side was like, well, it's not justified, the gorilla should live, and it's like, well, what are you advocating for? Well, not that. It was like, then, like, why are we talking about it?
Right.
So then you move into next week, and you kind of had that like that tension, and then I don't think it like it just wasn't a good week. It was like one of those things where I don't think like the election has really helped it, and the rhetoric that's coming out of like Trump and whatever. It just seems like lately it's been a little more toxic. But again, I'm still tweeting, so it's not like it's turning me off. So it's probably my problem. I don't know if you have that perception too.
I do, and it's something I was gonna ask you. It's like I felt the same. It's like I feel like there's a certain level to where you can probably retweet and point out something problematic and talk about why it's problematic. But then once you reach like a certain, it sounds strange, like a certain number of followers, you feel like you're doing more harm than good.
I agree with you completely.
I was gonna say, is that something like you've experienced? Because I know you've taken off here recently. You're a superstar now, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's definitely something that I've experienced, and I think like I don't like to do that anymore because I think my thing is like if I ever interact with somebody and like I'm like quote unquote trolling them, like I want them to feel like I'm the stupid one and they're making fun of me.
Right.
Anytime the Magic Jackson stuff, and like anytime you deal with people, like I think that's pretty clean. Like people are just correcting you, and like you keep going with it, and they think you're a dumbass. I'm good with that, but I don't like. I'm like I said, I used to find that stuff. I used to try to get in debates with people, but at a certain point, you're not going to change people's mind, and at the worst, you're going to take your 20,000 followers and broadcast your fight to them, and you're going to have people hop in there, and like. It's that person is just going to feel like they're piled on, and I think it's only going to make them, entrench themselves in their stance more because now you're making them, double down. Like now I'm being attacked for my beliefs, or now you're silencing me, or whatever. So it's just not like, it's not completely productive, I don't think. And it's something I've had to deal with because, even some like pretty innocuous stuff I've retweeted and I'll get like, 5 followers who will say something back. And like, I understand it,
Right.
It's all game, right? Like, I mean, when you're coming up on Twitter, you want to tweet at people and be funny and make people laugh and make people with a lot of followers laugh. And like, I understand that, but sometimes when it's at the expense of other people, it doesn't seem like it's fun anymore. It just seems like it's mean.
Yeah, and it feels like you're enabling like you're opening them up. Like, hey, everybody, look at this, and not in a way to be productive. Like, hey, you've got a problematic, point of view. Let me show you the other side of it. It's just kind of, hey, everybody, look at this. This Egg Abby saying whatever, and like, how are they ever going to get that message out to their 82 followers? Until you come along. And that's when it feels like should I even really give them the platform?
No, I mean, and it's gotten, it's obviously gotten a lot worse with the quote tweets, I think.
Yeah.
Because now people can directly read what you're saying, and they can read what they're saying, and then a click is going to get them responding to both of you. Whereas, like, you could have you could have responded to the person before and put a period before it, but that just means someone scrolling their feed has to go to the effort to read what you had previously said. Right. That doesn't sound like a lot of effort, but like when you're on your phone and you're sitting on the toilet, like...
I would say, over the course of how much we're on Twitter, 15, 18 hours a day, it's a lot of scrolling.
Yeah, so it's right there, and if I can read both tweets and then reply and then instantly, snap off my comment, then like that's nothing to me. Yeah, so, whenever a Twitter user has like 82 followers, or, just like 300 or something like that, and you don't know them, and, like 15 notifications to them might feel like overwhelming, whereas like I deal with like 100, just a sea of garbage tweets. Like, I'm used to it. Like,
right.
Other people might not be. Like, you don't want to, I don't like, I guess I've changed. I don't want to make people feel like they're being attacked or anything like that. Because there's just, there's enough of that going on Twitter anyway.
Yeah.
So, like where I was, I had 500 followers, and I would tweet at brands and kind of, try to say dumb things to them, and I'd go out and find dumb people and highlight them. But it's just, I still like the brand thing, but like, interacting with people, you just like want to keep it tight to just the people you like to interact with mostly, because, you only have like a finite amount of mental energy to waste on this thing, and it seems like it's better just to try to keep it positive most of the time rather than going out of your way, because you could spend an entire day trying to find all the horrible crap people say on Twitter and not even get through half 1% of them.
So on a more positive note, what I guess what is your favorite brand that you've done?
Oh, I liked my favorite brand. I probably like the like anything like NFL, NBA Insider, or I did like NBA or NFL Insider Adnan Schefter.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I was a play on like Adam Schefter, and like I like the. I just think I like doing is it's just so stupid. You just like say a piece of NBA news and then you just repeat like a fact from the Serial podcast. So it's like, Peyton Manning's retired today, and I'm in jail still for like a crime that is unresolved, basically. It's just so stupid that I just enjoy that. And like there's just a lot of it. I mean like really what I'll do is like I'll just be sitting there. So like I do like coding, right? So I'll like do code and I'll like wait for it to run. And so, like while I'm doing that, I just have all these creative impulses that like aren't being satisfied by, the computer screen. And
sure.
I'll just be like, okay, like, what if, what if Barbaro the Dead Horse was a WWE expert? And I just like put it together.
My favorite one, and I think it's by a pretty considerable margin, was September 10th, 2001 guy. Like, I've never like simultaneously laughed at something and been like, don't do this, man. Reconsider, but keep going. But don't do this.
That was actually, do you follow Fans since 09?
Yeah.
That was actually his idea. Like at the time, he had just, he's a good dude, but he had just like solved that crime, or like been on The View for all that stuff in Philadelphia, and he like gained all these followers that like, the problem when you get a lot of followers is you get a lot of people walks of life who like may not necessarily get the humor. So it's like, hey, it's a really good idea for a brand. But like, I have 14,000, you only have 6,000 now, so like, can you do it? I'm like, yeah, sure, like, fuck it, like, I'll do it. And so like went forward with it, and you know, just like I think the first tweet was like, everything is fine.
I remember that. I remember it was like something was like spilled my coffee. There's no way this week could get any worse.
Right. It was just like, because I remember like I was a sophomore or junior in high school, and the day before, like I was a huge nerd, so I was like big into Counter-Strike and computer gaming. So like September 10th, like my CRT monitor went out, and like I was like super pissed about that. Like I'm like, oh, my monitor broke. So like that.
What else could go wrong?
Yeah, I like took it into CompUSA, and then like the next day happened, which is like the the worst thing I've seen in my life, and you know, it's just kind of like you reconsider, you know, like the magnitude of your problems. And so like the whole idea behind that brand was just like, you know, it seemed like, you know, obviously everything has changed so much since then. And, you know, when I look back at that, like day before, I was thinking like I was worrying about my computer and monitor. It's just like it just seems so freaking silly.
Yeah, I think like that was kind of like that was really the humorous part. Like you weren't poking fun necessarily like at the people like right before that, but just hearing those things like it's like the Jay-Z CD's coming out this week. This is going to be the biggest thing to come out of New York this week. That's for sure.
Right. Well, it's just like that. It's that, you know, that inflection point in history, and it's just a general point where like everything seemed a lot less complicated, right? And I mean, it's probably a matter of nostalgia now, because you know I was in high school, and like what's really complicated then. But you know, like looking back, you know, before that, it was you know, obviously a turning point in, you know, the way the last 15 years have gone. So I think like for that brand, it's like, yeah, you know, I remember what else was like coming out that year? I think like I got like a PlayStation 2. I was like really stoked about that, and then like everything else happened, and it was like this transition into, you know, adulthood, where you now you know, you realize there's a bigger picture to the world, and like that really, I mean, everyone has their own story about like where they were when, you know, big events happen, but I think that's kind of what, you know, I mean, maybe, you know, made it funny was everybody can, you know, who's maybe like 25 to 30 can think back to their life and where they were and say,
right,
okay, yeah, things were like a lot less complex.
I'm trying that. Magic Jackson. I was a big fan of Magic Jackson. So all the brand, like, do you get them from people, or you think them up, or some of both, or you just got it like as they come, you just go with them?
So yeah, like Magic Jackson was the thing about Magic Jackson was I wanted to do this thing where I do like this NBA player ranking list, right? And you know, the first one would be LeBron James. And this was back when I think LeBron was still with the Heat, so it's like this ridiculous notion, blah blah blah. Now, the second one's Michael Jordan, right? So the first thing people say is, okay, this list is completely ridiculous. So what I wanted to see is how many people would look at that list and just see LeBron and Michael Jordan, and then manual retweet it and say this list is ridiculous, so LeBron sucks, while having Magic Jackson still be in there. Like you have this like unreliable like person ranking the list, but you still want to debate it, which is kind of like gets back to, you know, a lot of the discussions that happen on Twitter where like the person you're talking to is most likely a complete moron, but you're still arguing with them.
And also going to be on your jury.
Yeah, they're going to decide whether or not you go away for 30 to life or whatever. But you're arguing with them like, you know, you're going to change their mind. Like, no, Jordan's the best, and here's the reasons why. Like, okay, you know, thanks, guy with, you know, dog avatar, lacrosse man 69. That really changed my like perspective on. Yeah, but like you know, like a lot of them, you know, they're just like, it's fun because. You know, like PFT commenter is like I talked to him on and off, and like, you know, he's a good online, you know, like buddy, and like I think he's done a really good job. But like one of the things I really feel for him is like he's been doing the same. I don't want to say shtick, but like, you know, he plays a character and it's entertaining, but he's been doing it for years.
Right.
And you know, the thing that like, and you know, I wouldn't mind doing that, but like what I think would get tiring is like people expect like a certain thing from you, right? So like if you want to try something new or wanted to make a different joke, people would say, oh, he sold his account because that's different,
right?
or whatever. So like at least, when like I can change the brands, like yeah, like he has like 121,000 followers and has a job doing what he's doing. So it's not like on the same magnitude, but like I just like the fact that like I'm on there for fun. I can change it up. If I get bored of something, I can change it up. A lot of times I'll do something, make 2 tweets, and realize how unfunny it is, and I'll just be like, that sucked. It sucked.
I feel like that's part. Like we get to see like you work like the rough draft and everything.
Yeah, well, I might tell people like I'm a volume tweeter, man. I'm like Kobe in his last game.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like you look up and I've got 50 points. Just don't notice that I took 58 shots.
Yeah, and you're gonna look at Kobe and you're gonna remember 81 and you remember 60, but you're not like kind of like you remember the best things that happened, but you don't remember like all the trash brands like Matthew LeBron. There's like really nowhere to go with that. I'm Matthew McConaughey and LeBron. Like that's end of joke.
I'm trying to. Somebody had asked if you could BOFA anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
BOFA.
Yeah. Said? Yeah. If you could BOFA anyone.
Oh man. Actually, I think I think it would be Richard Dawkins.
That'd be perfect.
He was BOFA.
Did he? Did they get him?
Yeah, I think it was a Fire Scotch or something like that. But yeah, it was like. I mean, there's so many funny chains involving Richard Dawkins because he'll entertain anybody. Like, so like it was like one of those things. It was like maybe 20. I forget what it was. Like BOFA wasn't quite like oversaturated, but it was getting there. Mm-hmm. And I still appreciate a good one if it's like at least like somewhat of importance. But if you're just trying to like BOFA the like Cheetos Arabia account or like
right,
a big deal. But like Richard Dawkins was talking to someone. I think that this guy said, well, "What about the BOFA report?" Which is like a really go-to one now. He just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't heard of that," and then hit him back with the 4-panel dunk Death Star blowing up, like whatever. I thought that was pretty entertaining because I mean he's such a his Twitter presence is like he takes everything so seriously. Like someone had it was like Virgil Texas that said, "Hey, can you unblock me? I have something extraordinary to tell you." And like he got him to unblock me, and then after he did that, he said, "Okay, I've unblocked you. What is it?" And he just said, "God is real." That's all. Like, Richard Dawkins entertains it, and I think that's what makes it so ridiculous. Is you got this guy who in my opinion, like used to be like pretty respected for that particular field or whatever, and then his Twitter persona has completely like ruined him because he's like been exposed as being like misogynistic and all these other things. Like that's the never tweet philosophy right there.
Yeah, you gotta either like go out on top or just never start. Because like you said, like with him and like what makes the BOFA so good is like if you get that response out of Richard Dawkins, he has no idea what's going on. Like he's not playing along with any joke. He's not going like he legitimately wants to know what BOFA what? Like he can't fathom that he doesn't know it. So you've got to explain it to him. And that's when you drop the hammer on him.
And I mean the best part was like then the guy who did it to him followed up with like immediately like 5 seconds after it with like you are now blocked from following. So you just imagine like Richard Dawkins just sitting there like refreshing his notifications like I can't wait to find out what this BOFA is. And then it's like both of these nuts. And he's like, what?
I've been had.
Oh no. They got the best of me. They must be Christians.
Out of here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Somebody's like dead. It'd have to be somebody like the best person to get. It had to be like Maya Angelou or somebody. It would be like my best one. Like you just hit her with it, and she's like, "BOFA what, my child?" And you're like, "I don't want to have to do this to you, Maya." And then you drop the hammer.
So is an in-person or live like voice BOFA better than a like tweet or text BOFA? Like let's say Warren Buffett came to you're at college and he came to speak there, and it's at the question and answer phase, and Warren Buffett's sitting there up on stage. He's worth how many billions of dollars? Second wealthiest person in the United States. Now we're taking questions, and you just stand up and you go, have you thought about investing any of your money into BOFA charitable funds? and then Buffett just like, what does that mean?
He's like an 85-year-old. He's just racking it. BOFA. He looks to like his advisor. BOFA? Do we do any business with BOFA?
See, I think that's like if I think that would breathe new life into BOFA if people would start like videotaping them doing it instead of just doing it on Twitter. Because what I can't stand is like people will force a BOFA, and that's just worse. Like you'll say like, have you read the BOFA report? And the person's like, I'm not going to tweet at you anymore. And then they're going to come back and say, well, BOFA. No, the person has to specifically ask what BOFA is.
Well, I've seen people like lead with it. Like somebody got or tried to get. Oh no, they got Joe Rogan. And I think they had like you have to get him in a conversation, like a back and forth. You can't just at Donald Trump and be like, did you read the BOFA report? Like you have to get him some type of engaging to know that you've got him. But I don't know, like the setup of seeing it like on Twitter or in text, like when you get the perfect setup, might trump the live card just because like everybody knows what's coming except for the person.
Yeah, and kind of being there live in that anticipation phase, and then also like the picture, the 4-panel pictures you choose is very critical to it as well.
Absolutely.
It's funny, you just like I like mentally every time Joe Rogan like is brought up or I read his name, like I immediately think of the Chappelle Show. I just like it's ruined Joe Rogan for me for the rest of like anytime I see him on UFC or whatever, anytime someone talks, I just think about hey Joe Rogan.
I was thinking about that skit earlier today, and the part that cracks me up where he's like, no, Tyrone, these coals are very hot. They're upwards of 2,000 degrees. God damn. And that always killed me for like that just killed me for like 10 years for some reason.
Oh man. But I mean, like anytime I hear someone say Joe Rogan, I just immediately think, hey Joe Rogan. And that Tyrone voice, I just like, it's so funny. Like, there's got to be like lots of people like me that think that too, that Joe Rogan's just been ruined for them for life because of Dave Chappelle.
Oh, absolutely. Joe Rogan, I feel like anytime Wayne Brady comes up around my mother, she mentions the Wayne Brady skit every single time.
And I remember like watching those when they would like premiere on Comedy Central, and like that. I mean, like at that point in time, like for him to have Wayne Brady on there was just so hilarious because that was still like when Wayne Brady. I mean, that was the humor of it, but like I think like people who are like watching it on YouTube now, like Wayne Brady isn't as much in the pop culture.
Yeah, it's like you can't replicate, one, how big he was, and two, like the image he had. So for him to even show up, I remember it being like, oh shit, that's really Wayne Brady.
It was hilarious.
Right.
It was like the same, like the Neil Patrick Harris character 180 that he did in the Harold and Kumar movies, and like anytime you get like the actual person there doing a 180 thing, like it's always going to be funny to me because at least says that person has a good enough sense of humor to go along with them.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like Wayne Brady was on TV like 5 nights a week. He was doing like Whose Line Is It, and then I think he was doing a game show for a while, and he had his own variety show. I mean, like Wayne Brady was the face of ABC. Like just like everyone loved Wayne Brady, and then like all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, he's on Chappelle Show just doing all that funny shit. I gotta go back and watch those. They were great.
Yeah, like I'll catch like a marathon on every once in a while. I'm like, holy shit, this is like. I was in high school when Chappelle Show came out. I was like, and this stuff is still hilarious. Like it doesn't. Sometimes it's even funnier. Like when you see some of the stuff that he is, like some of the Black Bush stuff or the Black President stuff. Anything that he was like, damn, Dave Chappelle was right.
Well, like I mean, so much of it, like I mean. Like a lot of like my favorite thing is when they do it's the spouse swap or the husband swap or whatever.
With Leonard Washington.
Yeah. But he's playing the white husband, and he goes in and like licks the bra, and he just smacks his lips and goes
titty residue.
Like that's just like inherently funny. Like that's just, like I mean, just like the way it's delivered, the comedic timing, like the verbiage, like titty residue, like the way the words sound by himself is just like hilarious. Like I mean, and that's what he was just so good at. Like he just had a way to make everything funny, and it's like a lot of the stuff is like some of the stuff's based on like a lot of dated pop cultural references, but it's amazing because it's still funny. Yeah,
like that, and another one from that episode. Where he's laying with like the new wife, and she's like, "Are you gonna take your boxers off? Can I just pull my penis through this hole?"
Oh, or when that kid's listening to like 50 Cent, and he's like, He's on the drive, pushes him out the car. He's like, get out.
Yeah, Leonard Washington was maybe a top 3 Chappelle character. Like he batted 1,000 for me at least.
Yeah. And then the Mad Real World was also that's a good one too.
Oh man, so what favorite Chappelle skit?
Favorite Chappelle skit? Oh man, I haven't. And it's. I mean, like I know it's cliche, but it's got to be the Charlie Murphy, Rick James one.
Yeah, I think that it is cliche, but I remember exactly. I was talking to my mother on the phone watching that, and I remember her asking me what was wrong because I was laughing that hard.
I mean, I think what made it funny was you like, unlike the Prince one, they actually had like interview with Rick James interspersed with it, right?
Right.
Like Rick James was there, for the production and had the sign off, and then was like watching it and probably like, yeah, this is pretty accurate to reality, or like an enhanced version of reality.
Yeah, more or less.
I mean, and you think about like you had both "I'm Rick James, bitch," which like people still will repeat that to this day in various formats or whatever, and you had "fuck your couch." Like,
yeah.
That skit launched too. And I think it's better known for the catchphrases, but like itself, just his portrayal of Rick James and Charlie Murphy was just like so hilarious. There's so many other ones. I mean, even the like Clayton Bigsby was, like that was a hell of a way to like start the show off. I mean,
yeah, I'm trying to think. Bigsby was a good one. The Tyrone Biggins one where he goes to the school to talk to the kids was always a personal favorite. Where he's like, you go in your mom's purse, you take a little $20, you go down to the D train, you ask for Manuel, and it cuts to the kid in the audience just writing everything down.
It's funny because like looking back on it, like at the time, when I about 3 seasons, and then Chappelle just kind of walked away from it. And
yeah.
He came to my school in 2005, I think. It was like either at the tail end of the show or like when the show was popular, and it's a college crowd, and it's like it's a big university, and the people who go are all drunk, and they're just wanting it, like they're like being very disrespectful and yelling like "say Rick James" and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you could like when he goes into the interviews and talks about like how people were like saying like, the reason it's funny isn't because it's this and this. Like, you're thinking it's funny because it's something it's not. And then, like, I could see it firsthand because, like, everyone was just, like, in it for, the catchphrases and stuff like that. And so I'm kind of glad it was just, like, it really had no decline. That last season was, like, I mean, they had to do something weird with, like, the way it was, like, cut and stuff like that. But, the first 2 seasons were phenomenal, and I'm kind of glad he stopped doing them because it just like there's nothing that really missed on the show. Yeah,
and it's like at the time, like I couldn't believe it. Who would turn down $50 million on all that? And like the older I got, I was like, I understand it perfectly. I understand it perfectly.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, like, that was becoming one of the biggest shows for Comedy Central, and like the more attention you get, the more money your show's going to make, the bigger audience you get, and the more someone else is going to want to come in and have more creative control over it.
Right.
And, just kind of taper it for that bigger audience and to, maybe make it or desensitize it or, maybe clean it up a little bit in the way they see fit. And, Chappelle, walked away from that because he wanted ownership of it. I mean, one of the reasons I'd have to assume. So, it's just like, it's funny because I go back and watch those and, like, not only are they, like, still funny today, but they're just so ahead of their time.
Yeah.
In a lot of different sense. And, the comedy and the, like, just the delivery, it's like, it's not even dated at all. It's incredible. Like, it just kind of speaks to the guy and, like, how funny he is.
Yeah. I don't know. I was trying to think. I don't really remember looking forward to anything like the way I did, like, Chappelle Show. Because it was like middle of the week. Like Wednesday or Thursday, whatever, and it was like, stop what you're doing. It's 9:30 or whatever time it came on. Chappelle Show's coming on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we would. I was a freshman in college. We'd all get in one person's dorm room and like be like 8 of us watching Chappelle. it was like must see TV at the time. Now, like we all did that for Family Guy too, so that doesn't mean it's a good show. But,
to be fair,
but yeah, I mean, I just like, you know, like I said, like the whole Joe Rogan experience has been ruined for me because of Dave Chappelle. Kind of in the same way, like when I think of Wayne Brady or Charlie Murphy, or well, I wouldn't even think of Charlie Murphy if it wasn't for Chappelle, so I don't feel too bad.
I'll tell you another one. And I think he's a funny person. I won't say ruined, but anytime I see Bill Burr, I always think about the World Series of Dice, and he's like, I knew they were coming, so I put my car keys up my own asshole. That's what I think of that every time I see Bill Burr. It never fails.
I forgot about the World Series of Dice.
That's a classic.
That's definitely up there too. God, there's so many of them. I'm gonna go back and watch some of them tonight. That's gonna be my nightly activity, I think.
I think you should 1 or 2 episodes a night just to close out the day.
Well, there was remember on when he was, I think it was still with Grantland, did like this ranking of like all the Chappelle shows.
Yeah, the tournament. I remember that.
Yeah, which was like, it was awesome. So I might go back and just like sequentially watch that. If I get into the archives, maybe lock them down or whatever.
Well, I'd seen like they're selling them online like for cheap. Like all 3 seasons, I saw like it was like, I don't know, Fat Kid deals or whatever. Like all 3 seasons for like $12.
Yeah, I might just buy it, man. I might just support Dave Chappelle monetarily.
There you go. That's
what do you want me to do?
It was like that's another thing. I like how like our last resort is like, I guess I'll buy it. Like if I can't find it any other way, I guess I'll put some money in the guy's pocket.
Well, the funny part is it's become such like a noble act to say you're going to pay for media. It's like, you know what? I'm going to do them a favor. I'm gonna buy their album.
I'm gonna buy this J. Cole album with no feature or whatever it is you're buying.
Hey, have you heard that album has no features?
I heard a rumor. I don't know how you hear anything on Twitter, man.
You know, I might just go out and because I like the artist so much, I might just spend $1.99 on a single on iTunes.
I might go to FYE after I get paid this Friday and purchase a physical compact disc. I might.
Have you ever been back in one of those places?
Do they still have like those places?
Like I swear, like within the last 3 years, I was in one, and I forget where I was, and it was just. But it's funny because they shifted half the store to have like video games and like pop culture stuff, but they still have like compact discs there. It's like I just like I want to know who's going in there for compact discs, and I just want to meet them at the door and be like, hey, all right, get this.
Right, like what?
It's called Spotify, right?
I can help you. Like for the price of this one CD, you can listen to every song ever made. I think I'll still roll with the compact disc.
Yeah, no, it's like I have a 6-disc changer in my Honda, so I need to stick with CDs. It's like, well, have you heard about the CD burner?
Not interested. No, thank you.
Well, it's funny. My dad has an older car, and he doesn't have an aux cable on it. And it's like funny because it's 2005, and a lot of cars from 2005 even have those, but you still have to. He has this adapter that's a cassette tape with the aux cord coming out of the cassette.
Oh man, that's classy.
Oh man, and those things are the biggest pain in the ass to use because you have to find the right equilibrium of volume on the MP3 player and volume on the car radio without making it sound like complete garbage. I always give them a hard time when I use that, but I would be willing to bet those are sold in FYE. So
it's got. I used to have it's like the grown-up version of that. I had like the iPod holder which plugged into the cigarette lighter, and you had to put it on like some radio station that had no frequency to hear the song, and that was how I used to listen to iPod in the first car I ever had.
Oh man,
it was just horrendous.
I remember that too. It never really worked on my car. It's kind of crazy like thinking back, and that was only like, I don't know, 9 years ago, maybe less.
Right.
Because we had this because car technology like floats behind like 5 or 6 years, so like it didn't really catch up to like the whole iPod movement, and then like by the time it did catch up, now everything has Bluetooth and stuff like that, but now people are going to want to just do Spotify straight from their car menu and stuff, and who knows, be like, and only 90s kids will get that and appreciate it.
People forget that. People forget how we used to the means we used to go to listen to music in our cars.
You used to have to buy it. You used to have to like actually open up a package and put it into a CD player, it sucked.
Like, I remember, like, I would burn and sell CDs at school and just keeping it, like, low profile, like I was selling drugs. I would just have, like 5 Lil Jon CDs in my backpack, just hoping that somebody would want to give me, like, $5 for a burnt Lil Jon Crunk Juice CD. And, hey, that fed my kids, man. They got me through high school selling knockoff CDs. So I'm thankful for it.
Man, I'm stupid because I just gave them away. I wanted people to like me.
You fool.
Oh yeah, like what I would do is like I had this like huge pirated music collection, which at the time was huge, but now I look back, it's only like 6 gigabytes. The 6 gigabytes in like 2002 was like incredible. Like it's like half a hard drive, man. So what I would do is I needed to back them up, so I went to the store and I got a big spindle of CDRs. And I think CDRs had, you know, like a 512 megabyte capacity or something
big
like
time.
that. So I just sat there, you know, just casually burning like 12 CDRs just back to back, thinking this was like a good use of my time. And then my friends always wanted these CDRs. They're like, oh, give me all your music collection, your libraries. I'd go over and I'd wait for them to load up all 12 CDs onto their hard drive and then drag it over. And I should have just been selling it. I should have been like, look, man, like $30. You have my music collection. You want the Chumbawamba? You got to pay for it.
It's not free. Tough Thumping is not free, motherfucker.
You want all these comedy songs that are labeled as Weird Al but not by Weird Al? Go for it. You got to pay.
I remember I used to sell CDs, and I used to, like another guy used to sell them, but he would sell them for $2. So I would just go buy his and then sell them for $5. I was just cutting like the middleman, and the middleman here being hard work, out of the equation altogether. So
that's a smart business.
Hey, I was trying efficiency. My PER was high. I'm trying to think, man. I feel like that's a pretty good way to go out, reminiscing about CDRs and like waiting 45 minutes for a 12-track CD to burn.
Well, so I'll have one more anecdote on like how crappy. It's like, you know, everyone views like 1999 to 2001 as like this huge technology boom, and like it was, but like all these interfaces for every device you got were so poor. You tried to install them, like nothing would work. Like nothing would work with your drivers. You had to get new drivers. You had to go to the internet. You didn't know where to find them. Google really wasn't Google, so you actually had to put effort into it. But my first MP3 player was something called the Rio Diamond.
Jesus Christ.
Personal music player.
That sounds unclassy.
Had a 32 megabyte capacity on it, meaning you could put about like 12 songs on it. I thought this was the dopest shit ever, because I could take any selection of 12 songs that I wanted and put this on my personal music player and take it to school.
They take it wherever you wanted, man.
And you know what? It wasn't just me. Everyone was so impressed by it. So I look back at like all these, like, you know, we get all this music streaming and unlimited streaming music and all this stuff, and I was like walking around with this 32 megabyte MP3 player, and before that I used to have mini discs. Do you know what those are?
I feel like that, like my sister is older. I feel like she had those. Those were a little bit before my time.
Yeah, so it's like the Sony proprietary format that was kind of like a hybrid between a cassette, like a floppy disk, and a CD.
And a CD, yeah.
But what you had to do is you had to link it up to your computer, and you had to like record the song like you would on a tape deck.
Jesus Christ.
It could hold a lot of time, but I would literally just sit there and play song after song after song after song after song in order to load them all on my mini disc player. And I thought this was an efficient use of my time.
It seemed right.
Stupid. My parents were just like watching me in the room. It's like, I hope this kid turns out okay.
I'm sure you were beating the women off with a stick at that point.
Yeah, I was trying to get them to listen to Afro Man because I got high on my mini disc player.
Gee, I feel like all this stuff cycles though. Like somebody's gonna try to be hip and retro, and all that shit's gonna come back around.
No, it's already started with the vinyl. You know, everyone makes the arguments for the vinyls, but I just, you know, it's just not convenient. That's what it comes back to me. It's like I do whatever is gonna make me the happiest with the least amount of effort.
Correct.
So if that's me streaming a song, it's fine. I don't need to drop a Beatles album on the vinyl to try to impress anyone.
Right. It's like
sounds. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's like the sound quality is so much better. I'm like, yeah, but I have to like sit down and like, if I want to listen to song number 8, what the fuck do I drop the needle, man? Like, can I just put it on my phone?
It's like, I wouldn't even come over to your house if I wasn't so drunk right now. So why do I want to, like, I can't tell the difference of your songs.
I'm sorry. I'm not an audiophile. I don't fuck albums. So I don't know what sounds good and what doesn't sound good. Can I just like push Apple Music and they give me the song I want, please?
Oh, Google search, can I fuck an album?
I don't know if we're gonna top that.
I think that's a good way to go out, man.
I think that's a good way.
It's been an honor. I'm sorry, I talk a lot, but it's been good. And thanks for letting me discuss LeBron and OJ, and then I kind of derailed the show with my own comments.
No, not a problem. Thank you for joining us, sir.
I enjoy your tweets, and I thank you for your good content. And I appreciate you entertaining me for the evening. So thank you, man.
Not a problem, man. The feeling is mutual. I appreciate you and your brands. I'm looking forward to what's like every year on September 10th. I always hope it comes back, but then I was like, nah, that was a shooting star, man. That was perfect timing, everything.
It's a pop-up shop.
At one time.
Micro brand.
Exactly. But I appreciate you. I'm a big fan of you, and thank you for joining me, sir.
Yeah, the feeling's mutual, man. Thank you so much.
All right, and with that said, that brings show number 83 to a conclusion. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for rocking with me these first 83 shows. I want to thank my man Trill Ballins for joining me. By now, you know where to find the show. If you go to SoundCloud, Stitcher, as well as iTunes, search for Trill Withers. The show will come up. Do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe so that the show will come to you every week. Got the email address. That's trillwitherspodcast@gmail.com. Again, trillwitherspodcast@gmail.com. As always, guys, thanks so much for the support, and stay righteous.